Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on June 20th, 2021. I hope you all had a good weekend, and I hope those of you who are fathers had a good Father's Day. And those of you who have had the fortune to celebrate this with your dad have had given them something very special. Indeed, with this pandemic, with so many people dying, getting sick all over the world, with so much uncertainty going on in the world for the last 2 years, the fact that we can still be together, laughing, joking, irritating, and knowing the heck out of each other, it's a miracle. So if your children or your parents are still with you today, we should definitely count it as a small blessing in this big, scary world. Yeah, I say that, even though I know firsthand how difficult it is to get along with my parents sometimes. Um, Before I go into the main topic of the day, I'm not going to talk about my dad because actually in Taiwan, our Father's Day is not the same as the Western world. Our Father's Day is actually August 8th. So I think I will talk about my dad then when we get to that point. But what I'm going to be talking about today is still relevant because in the Chinese tradition, there's an old say that goes something like teacher for a day, father for a lifetime. What I mean is, in in the old days, traditionally, Chinese people, um, sorry about the camera bump there. My arm just brushed the camera. In the old days, Chinese people put a lot of emphasis on teacher. There's a lot of responsibility a teacher had to fulfill. So in the old days, uh, as started by the great and wise Confucius, teachers were not only there to teach you the knowledge of the world, but teachers were responsible for your behaviors for the rest of your life. In another word, uh, if you become someone's teacher and that person end up killing somebody or committing crime or become an evil, corrupted person, it reflects directly back on you as a teacher. So being a teacher means you have to teach this person how to read and write and study, but you also have to be this person's moral guidance for the rest of their life. So, teacher for one day, father for the rest of a lifetime. You don't just get to say, okay, school is over. Now I'm not a teacher anymore. Now it's your responsibility. I have nothing to do with you. No. Back in the old days, the teacher was directly responsible for the well-being of his students. No matter if it's during the day, during the night, in the winter time, in the springtime. It was very, very serious. Why do I keep putting it in the masculine? And I say father, I say he, because traditionally only men could become teacher in the Chinese society. It wasn't until very, very recently, maybe in the last 100 years or so, that we started to see female teachers. But prior to that, all the teachers for thousands of years were male because women were not allowed to be academics. Women were not allowed to study in Chinese history. So all the academics, all the scholars, all the teachers were male. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to talk about my three of the greatest teacher I've had in my lifetime and what the little lessons that each one of them taught me that stuck with me for the rest of my life. But before we get into that, I had an experience today, not a very significant experience, but it's quite uh, profound, quite, uh, uh, shall we say, sentimental, that I would like to share with everybody, because that is, after all, the point of a Soul Search Sunday is for me to talk about what touched me deeply and greatly that happened in my life. So tonight, I went out for a Father's Day celebration with my two best friends, Harvey and Maggie, and Harvey's son, Chris, was also there. While we were in the restaurant, we were all chatting and catching up because we haven't seen each other for a while, and everyone asked me, what are you going to be doing tomorrow? And of course, I just said, well, tomorrow, as far as I know, it's martial art training in the evening and making video, music Monday in the afternoon. And in the morning, I have to take my kitties into the vet because they need to get their nails trimmed. And I said it offhandedly, and no one seemed to really pay much attention to that. We just let it pass and moved on with dinner. At the end of the dinner, when the waitress was bringing the bill out to everybody, she asked, "Who do I give the bill to?" And that was where things got a little bit awkward because Harvey immediately said, "Well, it's Father's Day, it's my day, so of course not me." And his son Chris been talking about financial problems for the entire dinner, not having money to pay for his dentistry. He need to get a root canal and he can't afford it. So Chris did not pipe up either, and Maggie didn't say anything. So of course, me being the way I am, I like, okay, this is getting a bit awkward. So I said to the waitress, "Give me the bill. Give me the bill. I'll pay for it." It's Harvey's Father's Day dinner. He deserves it. Now, at this point in my mind, I was uh, not being very kind. Because at this point in my mind, I was thinking, bloody hell, I have to take the cat to the vet tomorrow. It's going to cost like 200 something dollar because I have to get their nails trimmed and then I have to pay for Tiger's medication. And now I have to pay for this dinner, which is almost $140. That is going to make things look really difficult financially. Uh, so I was uh, cussing up a storm in my head as I paid the bill. After dinner, we went out for a couple of drinks, and then Harvey and Maggie dropped me back home. Just as I was getting out of the car, Maggie reached over to me and handed me a $50 bill and said, "Here, for your cats tomorrow." It's a small gesture, but at that moment, I felt very, very blessed to have people such as that in my life that would consider things like that. I think most of us are used to living in a world where money is number one. We live in a world where people will take advantage, people will take a foot if you give an inch. We are not used to people giving back in this casual, offhanded manner when we least expect it. Now, some people would look at it in that, well, yeah, but if you didn't pay for dinner, then you wouldn't need that $50 in the first place. But that's not how I look at it. How I look at it is, I paid for that dinner willingly out of my own accord. Was not expecting any kind of compensation. I was not expecting any kind of acknowledgement. And here's Maggie. I mean, most of you don't know Maggie. Maggie is not an easy person to get along with at the best of time. She is temperamental. She can be a little bit moody, and she can be a little bit difficult sometimes. But here is Maggie, the one person that I totally did not expect this gesture from. Just casually handed over $50, say, here, for your cats tomorrow. That touched me. That touched me in a really, really deep way. And I just want to take this chance to say that this is the kind of incidences, this is the kind of situations that make me feel that I lead a very charmed life to have such amazing, thoughtful, considerate people in my life. So, teachers. I've had a lot of teachers in my lifetime. I think we most of us had. Uh, Most of them were just okay. They were there to do their job. I was there to learn. I did my part. They did their part. Some of them were downright bad. Uh, I actually had a teacher uh, that stopped me in the middle of the hallway when I went back to visit my high school. After I graduated from high school, I made a practice to go back and visit every year to say hi to the principal, to my old teachers. And I remember this one time I went back and there was this teacher who stopped me in the middle of the hallway and told me that everyone said that this is her exact word. She said, everyone say that you are a great guy. Everyone say that you have changed your way, but I am not fooled. To me, you're always going to be that punk. Okay, you're not going to fool me. That hurt. Uh, I don't even remember if I ever did anything to her that was that traumatic that made me deserve that. I think the only thing I really did to her was skip her class. I skipped her classes. That I remember. Well, back then I was of the opinion that she was a lousy teacher. She wasn't very good at making her classes, her lectures comprehensive. And today I will still hold on to that thought. She was not very good at her job. So I decided as a teenager that going to her class would be a waste of my time. So I didn't go. Was that a little bit offensive to her? Sure. But I definitely don't think that it was that traumatizing to her or to me. Uh, but yeah, like I said, I've had a lot of teachers. Most were just okay. Some were downright bad. But I've had the fortune, talked about leading a blessed, charmed life. I've had the fortune of having some exceptional teachers as well. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about my nanny Maru, who is obviously the greatest teacher I ever had, and my friend Wayne, who passed away on June 1st, another one of the greatest teacher I ever had. No, I'm not even going to talk about these people because these people weren't in my life as teachers. They weren't hired to teach me. The fact that they became great teachers in my life spoke more to their dedication and their ability to pass on the wisdom. Now, today I want to talk about teachers that were actually hired to teach me. Three of the greatest teachers I've ever encountered in my lifetime. First, her name was, yes, I I honestly I don't know if she's still with us in this world because I have not. gotten back in contact with her since I uh, left Taiwan, because she lives in Taiwan, but her name was uh, Xiao Li Yin. Xiao Li Yin, a very unique, very unusual Mandarin name. Uh, Teacher Xiao, we'll just call her. Uh, she was young and inexperienced when she taught me. I had just returned to Taiwan from Canada and got into the high school system there. I was uh, 13, maybe 12 years old, I think, and I was really struggling in school. For those of you who don't know, the academic requirement we are used to here in Canada and the US is about 3 years behind what is required of people of our own age in Taiwan. So, in another word, the kind of math we are doing here in grade 11, like such as geometry and stuff like that, they are already practicing that in grade 7 or 8 in Taiwan. So by the time they get to their grade 12, they're doing college or university level math that we are exposed to here. So when I went back there, when I was a teenager, I ran into so much trouble academically. I couldn't keep up with the rest of the class because people my age were years ahead in their understanding of geography, of Mandarin, of history, of uh, math. About the only courses that I excelled in that I could keep up with was English because I spent 2 years in Canada, and music and art. Those were the only subjects that I could keep up with them. All the other subjects I was lagging further and further behind. That's when the school decided to send me to their idea of the learning resource center. There's this class. Uh, to put it bluntly, it's where all the failed students go, where all the students that don't like to study, where all the troublemakers get sent there. And that class was ran by teacher Xiao, Miss Xiao. Miss Xiao, like I said, was young, wasn't very experienced, never taught a blind person before. But within a year, she was able to get me on track, on par, on equal footing with the rest of my classmates. She was so creative. She was a teacher that didn't play by the rule. She would try one thing, and if this didn't work, she tried another thing. She would go home. She told me that she would go home and lay in bed at night and think, okay, how do I work with this blind child? How can I work with this blind kid? What can I, if I was blind, what would help me? And she would try this on me, she would experiment on me with all her wild ideas. We had no education, like educators for the blind, specially trained educators for the blind in Taiwan. There was no accessibility protocols. There was no special materials. She, out of her own imagination, found a way to teach me geometry by carving a big grid, a big uh, uh, for like I guess like a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of wood. She carved squares on it to turn it into a grid, and then she would put push pins into various points on the grid and string them together with strings or rubber band and show me how different angles would work. Miss Shao was creative, tireless, and full of uh, this determination to make things work. and she never got frustrated with me. She never got violent. She never got uh, aggressive. It was just sometimes she would show a bit of disappointment if I didn't do well, but she just kept going and kept going, ever changing. And it was her ways of always trying new things that made me come to trust her and enjoy her company. Other kids hated going to this learning resource center because it has a stigma. This is where bad students went. I enjoy going there because every time I went there, Miss Xiao had some new, really wacky, really ridiculous idea in her head that she wanted to try with me. And that was what I learned from her is when something doesn't work, all you have to do is find a different way to approach it. Don't pressure yourself to keep trying the same thing again and again and again. I don't remember who said this in the past, but if you try the same thing again and again to expect different results, then that's you being foolish. We have to learn to be flexible. We have to learn to be creative. We have to learn to think outside the box. Just because the school didn't put this in the textbook, just because the school board didn't have material or funding for this, doesn't mean that one person who is creative can't make the worlds of difference. And Michelle showed me that she was able to make a difference in this blind child's life, to make this blind child who just came back from Canada, who was full of resentment toward his family and his peers. She was able to make me pay attention and catch up and be not only on par with my classmates, but even excel ahead of them because she was able to make me enjoy the process, and she was able to make me realize that sometimes there's a lot of different ways of doing something. As long as you get it done, it doesn't matter how you go about doing it. My second teacher came into my life in roughly the same time because I was having such trouble at school with my schoolwork. My parents hired me a teacher, a tutor after school. His name was Chan. Mr. Chan, uh, he was the most unconventional teacher I ever encountered. I remember one time he showed up at my house. He would show up at my house after school every day to tutor me, and usually we would do what he wanted to do. He would say, "We need to work on your math." When we work on our math, he said, "We need to work on your English." We work on our English. I hated that. I thought of him as just another boring tutor, another boring teacher who's here taking my parents' money and just pretend he's doing his job. One day, he showed up and he said, "I heard that you do martial art." That immediately got my attention because that's what I was good at, and that was what I was really proud of. And that was where my interest was. I said, "Yeah." And Mr. Chen said, "Okay, okay, let's spar. We're going to spar today. If you kick my butt, then we do whatever you want to do, as long as it's still studying. But you can pick whatever you want to study. Right? If I kick your butt, then we are going to be doing math." So we so we sparred, and I kicked his butt. We ended up doing my favorite subject at the time, which was Chinese history. And then he kept that up for the next 2 weeks. Every day he would show up and he would say, "Let's spar." And then we would spar, and I would kick his butt, and then he would let me pick whatever I wanted to study that day. 2 weeks later, He said, "Look, I'm getting kind of sore. What other things do you do? What other uh, do you like to play chess?" I said, "Yeah, I really like to play chess." He said, "Okay, let's have a chess game. Same thing. If I beat you, you do whatever we're doing math. If you beat me, then we're going to do whatever you want to do." And we played chess for the next month, 2 months, and I would say he did better. He did better with chess than martial art. He actually won sometimes. So when he won, I was a good sport about it because he was always a man of his word. When I won, I got to pick whatever I wanted to study. And when he won, I sat down and focused on studying math. Mr. Chen taught me probably one of the most valuable lessons that I needed to learn to be able to do what I do today in teaching self-defense to people, which is learning doesn't always have to be serious. It is okay to have fun. It is okay to enjoy yourself because when you actually enjoy yourself, you learn a lot better. If Mr. Chen acted like any other teacher, if he just show up and said we're going to do math, then which he did the first month or so he did that, I would have never been able to excel in my learning the way I did. Because to me, it would be a chore. To me, it would be controlled by other people. It wouldn't be of my own accord. But by putting this kind of choices in my hand, if I beat him on chess, if I beat him on martial art, I could make the decision. He made it a challenge. He made it fun. He made it so I look forward to him showing up every day. He made it, even though I didn't study math every day because a lot of time I was winning, so we ended up doing a lot of history. But he made sure I studied. He made sure I studied, and he made sure I had fun studying. So even though in the end I might not have become a mathematician, I became very, very good in school and in most subjects because I was having so much fun studying with him. That is the most valuable lesson that Mr. Chen taught me, to have fun while you learn. There's nothing wrong with enjoying what you have to do. My third and probably the greatest teacher out of them all, her name is Lynn Wood. She was my mobility instructor, and I've known her ever since I was 9 years old. When I first came to Canada, she taught me how to use my white cane. And then when I returned to Canada, when I was 15 years old, she took over teaching me mobility independence. She helped me set up my bank account. She helped me learn how to cook. She was the to coin an old song, she was the wind beneath my wings. She was the reason how I became independent and be able to live on my own and live as an independent and responsible adult before I was even 18 years old. Miss Linwood, if you ever see this, I can't say thank you enough. I remember there were two incidences learning from Miss Lynn Wood, or Mrs. Wood, as she's properly known, if she's married. Mrs. Wood, uh, there were two instances that was very firmly lodged in my mind. One was this one time it was raining outside, and as usual, she showed up and she said, "Come on, I'm going to show you how to cross the street. We're going to work on the street corner today." I was 15, I think, and I said, "Come on, can we just like take a day off? It's raining. It's raining really hard. Like, I don't want to be out. I might catch a cold. I don't want to be out there in this weather." And Mrs. Wood said to me very sternly, she said, Johnny, you're going to be an adult soon. You need to understand the world will not stop because it's raining. The world will not stop because it is snowing. If today this is not a mobility lesson, if today this is what your job, if it's a job you have to go to, if today this is a date you have with a woman, you have to go. No matter if raining, snowing, earthquaking, whatever, you have to go. So, no, you cannot bow out of today's lesson because the world does not stop for you. I thought she was so mean at the time, but the more I thought back about what she said later, as I was growing up, as I matured, the more this meant the world to me because she taught me something so valuable that day that the world does not simply stop because I am afraid of getting wet. If I really want to be a responsible person, then I need to force myself to get out there in the rain. Not many other lessons would have benefited me as much as I took my first few steps into adulthood, into the workforce, into finding a career. Another instance, this was another rainy day, and we were again working the streets. I was learning a new route, how to get from point A to point B. I was walking using my white cane, getting soaking wet, and I noticed that Mrs. Wood was just sitting in her car. She wasn't even walking behind me as she usually was. So I complained. I said, hey, that is not fair. That is not fair. Why am I the one out there getting wet? Why are you just sitting in your car? Aren't you getting paid to teach me? Again, she turned to me and she said, yes, and I am teaching you. Every time you do something wrong, I tell you what you did wrong. Every time you are going to make a mistake, I honk the horn to let you know. I am teaching you. I'm not getting paid to be out there in the rain with you. You are the one who have to learn, not me. You are the one who want to learn this route, not me. So if you want it, then you have to be the one who suffer through it. There's no reason for me to be out there in the rain with you. Again, at the time, I thought that was such a mean thing for her to do. Afterward, as I got older, I thought more about it. I thought she was right. It was what I wanted, so I had to pay the price for it. Just because I wanted something and was paying the price of getting wet, getting cold, that didn't mean that other people had to pay the same price. It wasn't what she wanted. She wasn't the one who needed that experience. She wasn't the one that needed that kind of conditioning. And in the end, what she showed me was the world doesn't have to be fair. So, in many ways, and these were just two of the examples of the little lessons I came by when I was working with Mrs. Wood. I know that to some people it would sound like she was a jerk, but I can assure you that she was the best teacher, that she was the nicest person when we were not in a teaching student teacher environment. She was stern, she was strict, but she was always reasonable when she was teaching me. And these little lessons that she taught me about life, about responsibility, about the way the world really worked, were some of the most valuable lessons I could have gotten at that early age. Later, after I grew up, and one day I found out that when I was going through some rough time with my family as a teenager, when I ended up in foster home, when I ended up on the street, Mrs. Wood actually talked to her husband, asking him if it would be okay for them to adopt me as their child. Now, this never happened, they never did, but the fact that she made the attempt made me believe that she was one of the best teachers I've ever came across in my life. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. And don't forget, if you enjoy what you get on these daily videos, check out the podcast. You can find it on any your podcast platform by searching for Johnny Tiger Experience. For now, have a good night.